Hello, hello, hello. How you guys doing on this fine Wednesday? Because it's Wednesday and I totally knew. It's not because I just checked. Jamo says, I hope XXX catches up soon. I'm not gonna fall for that, my friend. I've been with the internet for too long. You cannot get me like this. Nice try, though. Nice try. Flary Reuter says audio and video good. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Nice to see you too, brother. Nice to see you. Hi, Don. Missed you. Hope you're well with your future wife and duckling. Doing excellent, my friend. Thanks for asking. It's a good day, huh? It's a good day. Hey, Don. Feels good to be a sub 19K spot buy. Yes, indeed it does. It does. My lowest buy was below 16K, which feels quite good now that we're trading much higher and people are coping about not being long, and we can just chill, right? And this goes across like most of these coins. It's just been spot and hold time, and yeah, it's really nice when you buy something, it just goes up, huh? Like no drawdown, no nothing. It's been a good few months. You were the prophet of this pump duck. I tried, man. I tried. Whenever I get high conviction, I try to kind of be high conviction on Twitter and stuff early on, and then get quieter the longer the run goes, because I don't want to shield people into the top. I want to shield people in the bottom if I can, right? It just seems proper, but. Yeah, it's been going well. Are you long and strong, sir? Yes. It's a brilliant day. Head up high? Yes. We're doing good. The fact you're doing this for free shows how much you want the rest of us peasants to also win in life. Thank you. No, I mean, I just enjoy it from time to time. And yes, if I can help, I'm glad to help. But I wouldn't do it if I wasn't enjoying it, because I don't know, like talking about the market to an audience can be quite helpful in some ways, because when I say some dumb shit, right, and I do sometimes say dumb shit, I actually will think about it after the show, sit down and then reevaluate if the reasonings for what I'm doing or what I'm thinking are actually correct, which I think is actually quite underrated when you talk about the stuff. When you have to talk about your thesis to people, and I mean, there's always going to be people that are going to say, hey, you're just fucking stupid. But there's also going to be people that give good arguments for why. And yeah, it's been helpful. So it's not just me giving, it's a give and take, obviously. Flary Reuter says I'm up 4x this year. It's been wild. Good shit, man. Good shit. I'm not up 4x this year. I just traded spot, but it's good. Like, I'm up quite a bit as well, and I'm enjoying every second of it. Litecoin so strong, Don? Yes. It's nice. So yeah, let's talk about Bitcoin real quick. I mean, you see the daily in front of you. Looks fucking amazing. I've seen a bunch of people switch their buys. To me, we're in this kind of season, huh? Like, let me actually change the color of this so it's easier on the eyes. And now people are gonna say, oh, use dark mode or night mode or whatever it's called. No, I will not. You will not get me to use it. We're in this kind of season, right? Consolidation upwards to just going up. I don't really know why people are switching buys. So far, so good, right? This just looks good. There's no real reason to be bearish, in my opinion. But we'll go over it on the higher time frames before we switch to the daily. So yeah, the monthly, we finally closed, and as predicted, right, we closed above resistance, which is big news. Now we have a massive shelf that is gonna be support if we should be smashed down, which I'm honestly not even expecting. I don't think this support is gonna get tested anytime soon. But I could be wrong on that front. And if we do test it, I think it's an excellent buy. but if we don't, I wouldn't be surprised, right? So resistance up here, support down here, the entries that we took from 15 and 16K, well in profit and very safe, right? So basically, all the buying that I've been doing, and then from the chat, it seems like a lot of you guys have been buying as well, which is always nice to hear. Down here, right, was early buying. This is before the trend was confirmed, the trend changed. This was literally just buying before, like buying in anticipation of this setup that we have now. And the setup that we have now is basically, we had a consolidation in here that we broke out of to the downside. And now we've reclaimed that consolidation, right? And then as I've talked about a million times, one of the better setups in crypto and in markets as a whole, but in crypto especially, is when you lose a range to the downside and then you reclaim it with force, right? And that's exactly what we've been doing here. We've lost the range, we've reclaimed it, and now we have the range low as support. So basically what we did was we ranged, we lost it, we rallied back up. And something that you see oftentimes during these kind of times, as in like when this happens, is that you don't necessarily have to retest the bottom of the range and then go up. And I think this is where a lot of people will get caught off guard if this goes up, because they're like, oh, I have this clean entry down at range low. It's not that easy. When Bitcoin goes, it goes hard and doesn't have to retest any supports. So like I said, that's why I'm like, can it retest? Most definitely. Would it be a good buy? Most definitely. Do I think it will retest? I don't think so. I think it's more likely to just not give an entry. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. So this is my bias going into the next few months, because this is a monthly signal, right? We had a monthly signal here of a range breakout that failed. That was when we discussed being bearish, right? And I was like, this doesn't make sense to be bearish above 60K. And then we broke down and I was like, okay, now it does make sense to be bearish. And we traded bearish after this signal for a long time, right? This was in November of 21. We just now had trend reversal on Bitcoin after a long time of bear market. Doesn't have to mean that the lows are in, all that kind of stuff. It's just the first signal that we get on the monthly that is actually usable, because all we had before, or at least the first reversal signal that we had, because all the signals we had before was just bearish, right? We talked about this back at the time that we were running into resistance. We did, and failed. We had like a few like long opportunities that played out a little bit, and I went from support to resistance, but nothing major, right? This is the first one, being this is the fake out, this is the reclaim. Now we have to be bullish unless we lose 19K. So I think it's very easy to be bullish now. And the good thing is, given a lot of us, a lot of you guys have gotten a good entry below 19K, it's relatively easy to hold that position, because your invalidation is basically above your entry, which just means no matter what happens, you're basically gonna go out of this trade a winner. And you have a lot of upside. I think the upside is basically on the monthly, is basically, if you don't want to be too greedy, is 34K. And the downside is basically a close below 20K, which could be anywhere from 18 to like 17K, something thereabouts. So even on face value, like, I mean, the trade that I took, basically down here. It's a little bit lower than this, but I'll take this anyway. And my stop loss is above this, so I'm gonna be fine either way. But I don't think I'm necessarily gonna be stopped out of that one. We'll see though. It's like, I see a lot of people sidelined, and when I see a lot of people sidelined in something like crypto, I see a lot of potential for upside. Just how it is, right? Whenever you have a lot of people's eyes on something that they don't own, and that they want to go down, it's easy for it to just go up and fuck people over. That is practically a 6-month engulfing. Yeah, I mean, it engulfed this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Not almost, like those two, not really, but the last 4 months, most definitely. I don't know how you could take that as anything as like a sign of strength. And that's what we wanted to see, is what we got. And now it just has to translate on the lower time frames. And so far it looks good, right? You saw the daily a second ago. Anyway, let's look at the weekly. I still think this is pretty much a very accurate description of where we are in the market. Anything below the weekly, which also aligns with the monthly, monthly support is at 20K, 19.7-ish. Weekly support is at 19K, right? Anything below that starts looking really shit. That's where we want to get out, or at least I want to. You can do whatever the fuck you want to do, but I don't want to hold Bitcoin if it runs like this and then just loses 3/4 of the rally. Doesn't make much sense, especially given my narrative is that a lot of people are just sidelined. I don't want to see it go that low, right? So I don't want to see it go below 18.7. If it wicks there, that start looking shitty, but I mean, it'd be okay. But if we start losing this level on a closing basis, that'd be quite bad news. I don't necessarily think we will, but it's good to talk about it regardless, right? Then the danger zone, this is where if you get too many closes in this area, I think it starts getting dangerous as well. It's between 20.7 and 19.3K. Anything in this area gets me a little bit nervous, right? Because it invalidates, or it kind of takes away from my view that we should be on the way to squeeze a bunch of sideline people. Because if they get this kind of clean entry, I think the rally is most likely done, because let's say this rolls over, goes into the zone and we bounce. I could see there being a lower high that we just fade and then head lower, right? So anything in the danger zone, you kind of have to mistrust at least a little bit. It's fine for wick. If we just wick down there, immediately get bought back up, that's okay. But if we spend too much time there, I think even if we get a rally, it's probably one to sell. So it's the same kind of picture as on the monthly. I can see wicks and all that kind of stuff going there. But if it does more than that, I get concerned. But it's not an invalidation yet. Where we are right now, it's squarely in the looks good zone. That's just this is exactly where we want to be. Spend some time in here is okay. It's not too low to give good entries. So a bunch of people will still sit on the sidelines hoping for an entry. And it's also enough to fuck over the high leverage degens that just bet on upside and without the occasional 5% drop, which just makes this is just, you want to shake out people, but you don't necessarily want to give good entries left and right and center, right? So it's in an acceptable area. And if we do break out next week, we start entering an area where it starts looking really, really good. And if it does trade anywhere in between 25 to 32, I think that could be a quick move between the two, because there's no price action on the left side. I called this the free AC gap back in the day, but that was before FTX imploded. So FTX was still selling people's coins. We had still a bunch of negative news to come. Celsius was already fucked at this point. We just didn't know it yet. A lot of dangerous players in the game that ended up being fucked weren't fucked yet. So wasn't time during this time. I think actually Celsius was bankrupt during this, but the timelines just wild. Anyway, we had the FTX still to go, right? That's why we were headed lower. But now that that's out of the way, the only negative or bearish narrative that we could get is the whole Genesis thing, but I think that's overblown. Not as in overblown as how bad it is, but overblown in what people think the price action is gonna be like. So yeah, looking good on the weekly as well, right? I mean, it's just literally on the chart, looks good. Cannot say anything else. Looks fucking amazing on the monthly, and now we go to the daily, and that looks really good as well. Because what we've been doing is basically, we had a range here, and this is basically the reason why I was bullish, because I saw this as, we had a range, and I saw this as a range fake out before it actually happened. So I was like, okay, this breakdown seems a little bit suspect to me. I want to have some action, because if, and this was like I made the case on the 4 hour back then, this breakdown is a fake one, and there's a chance that this fake out, like this breakdown here, leads to this whole thing being a false breakdown. Actually turned out that way. Like this was the low. We set a high low here and then just consolidated and went up, and it's my favorite setup, right? Basically range, loss of the range, reclaim, and immediately go to range high. And so far we're chilling above range high, which is good news, right? You don't want to necessarily lose that range high. It wouldn't be the end of the world, just given how straight up this run has been. Like if we lose it and then chill somewhere above this consolidation, best case, right? Like maybe if we do something like this, come back down, bounce, do something like that, that'd be completely fine, right? The only thing that you don't want to have necessarily is come down here, do this, because then even if it walks up, like this would be possible, but I think at that point you'd expect something like this. So I don't want to see it go much lower than 20.6K, personally. But yeah, the daily looks good as well. We had sideways up into straight up, into sideways up, into straight up, into sideways up. We'll see how this turns out. So far, so good though. You were the only one that said 16K was a deviation by FTX from the 20K range. Yeah, I mean, I like to, when I see like this kind of potential of, like when I see on a lot of time frames, right? When you go to the monthly, you have a range and you're trading in it and you lost it. And then you go to the daily and you see in here that you have a range and you just lost it. And then you go on the 4 hour and you see in here, the lower time frame, that you have a range, you lost it and you reclaimed it. My head immediately goes to, and this is only for the extremes, obviously, you don't want to suspect this every time, but right, so you have the weekly here, you have the daily here, you have the 4 hour here, right? And it's all the same. It's just when you're looking at the weekly, you have the whole picture, and then if you look at the daily, you just get this small thing, this recent breakdown, and in the 4 hour you get this, right, as this here. And they all have the same setup, and you're like, if this played out bullish, right, and if it gets enough momentum and carries through this range, that's gonna kick the daily back into the range. And the daily coming back into the range is gonna kick back, like, and coming up, is gonna kick back the weekly back, right? And then you get this like low time frame setup that we had down here that can lead to just a massive move. And then sometimes, and this is like, it's pretty rare, but it happens like every other year or so in crypto, you can just roll, and this is what I used to do on leverage, but I don't really trade much leverage anymore. But then you have this high conviction setup that you actually just like, you take a levered trade on the 4 hour with a target based on the weekly, with stop losses based on the 4 hour. And that's gonna make you a shitload of money if you're right. It's rare. You shouldn't be aiming for the setup every time, because like I said, it doesn't really happen like every week or two. It happens every year or 2 or 3 in crypto, right? So we had this setup, which was just perfectly aligning on all the time frames. And there was very low risk in taking the trade because your invalidation was very close. And then the momentum from the 4 hour led to daily momentum, led to weekly momentum, and now we have monthly momentum, right? We just have monthly momentum. So that's kind of what you want to be seeing, but it's very rare. So it's not necessarily a setup that you have to like try to trade necessarily, but if you see it, I can only recommend thinking about it a little bit, because it's been one of the biggest money makers for me. It's how I longed ETH at 84 back in 2019, 18, 2018, down here. Basically, I saw this exact same setup here at 84 and took it quite a bit higher. I was bull posting very similar to how I've been bull posting these days. So yeah, shout out to the OGs that are still around from that time that remember. Good times. When will alts catch up to what? Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been wiping the floor with everything. We'll talk about it in a second. Don, when will you consider buying more spot? I bought all the spot in the world that I want. I don't want any more. I haven't sold a single bit. I mean, I traded a little bit, but I haven't sold. Like I rebought everything I traded basically and more. I basically traded a bunch of Litecoin. I traded a little bit of Bitcoin, but not too much. And I pushed all the money that I made back into the market. And I don't want to push in more. I have more than enough. And this is where it gets a little bit shitty for people that didn't take this setup seriously. Because I mean, if you come for me to advise you where to buy, I'm probably the worst person to ask, because I don't want to see this go lower. I have all the Bitcoin and I have all the Litecoin, all the Bitcoin. And I want to have a little bit more ETH than I currently own, but that's just going to be me rotating my Bitcoin into ETH. So that's also not really interesting. So I'm kind of in the situation where I cannot really give you good advice where to buy, just based on the fact that I've bought everything that I want to buy and I'm a little bit biased. So what's your thoughts on gym style macro arguments? Yeah, lots of people sidelined, but also lots of people poor and struggling financially at the moment. I mean, crypto is just a tiny market. I don't really get where this is coming from, right? It's just it can be pushed around by millionaires, not necessarily Bitcoin, but a lot of the altcoins. Let alone billionaires, right? This is a tiny market. The whole macro thing, trying to apply a macro lens to a tiny market, especially given people suck at trading macro. It's just how it is, right? A lot of people, a few people got the bearishness right. I got it right based off of TA, not necessarily having to do the whole macro spiel. But in the end, it worked out similarly. But most people suck at trading macro, right? It's very difficult. So you have to get the macro right, the macro trade, and then you're trying to apply it to crypto, which is tiny and insignificant in comparison to a lot of other things. And I think it's trying to overcomplicate something that's pretty simple. You get massive strength while the market is massively flooding everything. I mean, that's just something you want to buy. And then if we get massive weakness while we get a bunch of FOMO news, you're going to be certain that I'm going to be selling, right? So I don't really care about the macro as much as other people do. And so far it's done me well. I've seen a lot of people coping about macro sitting on the sidelines on this push up. And I'm more than happy with having gotten, I mean, the Bitcoin position that I took is up 50%. And I didn't have to think about macro too much to take it, right? You see an overextension, you just, at some point stuff is too over, not oversold, but stuff is pushed far too far down. And then you just want to take the trade. Other people might be smarter than me and be able to predict what the macro is going to lead to price-wise. I don't think most people would. If they could, they would be working at investment firms, not trading crypto. There's more money to be made in that. and you don't even have to trade your own money to do it. So I don't know. I feel like people are overcomplicating something relatively simple, which is just crypto prices go down a lot, you want to be buying. Crypto prices go up a lot, you want to be selling. And yeah, everything in between is just trader's paradise. But yeah, I don't know. I just might be too stupid to get all of this. But maybe I'm on the 50 IQ side of the 150 and 150 IQ scale. I'm down for it though if it makes me money. Tell us about that one time you were lightweight with Psycho and Cred in Vegas. I mean, I wasn't the lightweight. I was doing quite well. I had a lot of booze with Cred and Psycho, and we got sufficiently drunk, and it was a good time. One of us, and I will not disclose which one of us it was, had to be carried to their hotel room. Yeah, it was good. Fond memories. But yeah, I if you ask me on a or like just tweet at Cred, maybe he wants to talk about it. Probably not. But on a Friday show, it'd be a funny topic. Maybe if we invite Altcoin Psycho on a show or something, because it's quite funny. Do you ever trade low time frames? You've been prescient since I can remember at the top. It's been amazing. Cheers, GigaChat. I used to. I don't really do it much anymore. It seems like I mean, this is something that isn't really talked about enough, I think, in trading. But when I trade the low time frames, right, and do it too much, I get obsessed and I don't do anything else anymore, which just isn't good for you. And two, and this just is even more important, I got stressed. I wasn't really, oh shit, I'm going to lose all my money, because I always used proper risk management. It's the reason why I'm still around and a lot of other people aren't. But I was stressed. I was stressed about catching every single trade. I was stressed about a bunch of shit, right? And I could feel my body just like taking a hit. I was always very, very fit. And then, you just don't do sports anymore. You just don't do shit anymore. You don't meet friends because you're just like obsessed, basically. And you have to be obsessed to be a low time frame trader, because there's so little edge there that you have to be obsessive. And just took a toll on my health, really, which I'm glad to not have anymore. It's cool. It was a really good way for me to kickstart my career, basically, because if I didn't do it, I wouldn't have had enough money to trade like this and make a living out of it. Because the thing is, like, high time frame trading is going to be slower. I still think it's the best way to make your money, right? So for people, excuse me, I've had a lot of food. For people that want to get into trading, I think it's the best way. You just do your job, work normally, make your money on the side with whatever you do, and then just take the high time frame trades, get used to that, make money consistently, and at some point your bankroll is going to be big enough, and you're going to be adept enough or like good enough to just do this on the side, as in, like, you don't have to, like, you're not going to make the mistakes again, and then you can just kind of take care of your own money. You don't have to ask other people for it, which I think is a very valuable skill. The people that trade the low time frames, they're going to have hot streaks and they're going to have shittier streaks, and then it's a little bit of a different story. But anyway, I don't really do it anymore. Don, could you look into link? Maybe. We'll see if I don't forget later. Hey Don, what was your field of study work before crypto? Really curious of your background. You're very witty. I wouldn't say I'm witty. Compare myself to Cred, and I'm like the most dumb person on the planet. But I was studying geology, actually, which is quite funny. It doesn't have anything to do with markets, but yes. I was into volcanoes, basically. Would have gone into, already had cool stuff lined up in the volcano industry, which is quite funny to say, like volcano tourism industry. I would have basically given tours on volcanoes all over the world. Had that lined up, and then I was like making too much money in crypto, so I stopped and didn't go. Would have been cool as well. This is exactly what I'm doing based on what I learned on this channel. It is working perfectly. Big thanks. Very happy to hear that, man. Very happy. And it's going to lead to more long-term success. Don't get obsessed over the low time frames unless you absolutely have to. Okay. So let's, I mean, low time frame, we're breaking out right now. It's quite nice on Bitcoin. Let's see if it sucks out the air of the altcoins again. So far, ETH's been doing wonderfully. Litecoin did really well. It's retracing now a little bit. This is basically the $100 resistance, which is pissing me off because it's 97 here, it's 98 here, it's 99 here. Just fucking go. Just push it to 100. What is this shit? Anyway, we'll talk about altcoins real quick, right? ETH's been very, very strong on this current rally. It's bouncing off a support, which is quite nice to see. Support's holding, just looks good. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do this. So high time frame, ETH last month closed above monthly resistance, so to speak, that all-time high of 2018, closed above it. And I really, for me, my ETH position, I'm not going to give up, right? I'm just going to hold it. I don't really see a point in trying to trade this. I bought it at monthly support. I'm willing to sell it either at monthly resistance or new all-time high, which I don't think necessarily is going to happen. But I'm definitely not going to be selling it before, unless we do something bearish. But so far, so good, right? The monthly just looks good on the USD pair. It's very, very choppy. This is why I don't trade it. I don't really see particularly good setups on this. And I don't see much like something that I necessarily makes me want to take positions, right? I think Bitcoin's much, much clearer. Bitcoin's been up only and been very clear about where it wants to go. ETH a little bit less so, but still on the bullish side of things, right? So that's why I'm holding ETH. But yeah, it's holding all the supports. It's breaking a few resistances. Nothing much there, right? It's bouncing from support on the daily. It broke through monthly resistance, but it's not really the best. But yeah, it just looks good. The reason why I've been holding off of ETH or off on buying more ETH is basically because I was expecting it to bleed out against Bitcoin. And it's done so the last 3 weeks, right? It's been underperforming. This is basically what the title is talking about. When will altcoins catch up? ETH is one of them. I mean, it's not down a lot since Bitcoin's taken the mega run, but it's down 10%, right, against Bitcoin, which is something. It's not necessarily huge, but it's something. I'm actually surprised how well it's holding up. I think it's going to be a really, really good trade once Bitcoin slows down a little, or once Bitcoin gets near to the top. And so far, it looks like to me like it wants to hold 0.066. So I could see like a dip in here. I might want to increase my position by a little bit more, like rotate some Bitcoin into ETH. At that point, if it goes all the way down, I'm going to rotate all my Bitcoin into ETH. Not entirely sure that's going to happen though. And I'm more than happy to have some Bitcoin. But at that point, if it crashes against Bitcoin another 20%, I'd be more than willing to just rotate into ETH and make that my main holding. Down here, I'm going to buy a little bit more. I've been thinking about it the last few days. I'm more than happy to, if it just comes back up again, basically if it reclaims here, I'm going to buy more as well, because I think this resistance is going to be cooked the next time we test it. So if we test it from here, go up, I think we're going to go higher. We're gonna threaten the flippening at that point. If you go down here, do the same. I'm gonna think we're gonna go higher. In general, I think ETH BTC is gonna go higher. It's just a question of when. And there's a few points where it could come from, basically. One, these two lines. Two, basically this long-term trend line, which would take quite a bit longer. But in general, I think ETH BTC is headed for basically at least these highs, so 0.12. That's very close to the flippening, and I think that's pretty likely. I think that's gonna end this rally or the next one, depending on when it does happen. But I think like this has been going on sideways. Like we had a strong trend, broke up, strong sideways. This is barely a pullback. It's pretty clear to me that ETH wants to go higher against Bitcoin. It's just a question of when. So I think ETH is an interesting one. And that's why I have a bunch of ETH, even though I was expecting Bitcoin to outperform, and it has. So I lost technically 10%. Like I could have made 10% more if I just held Bitcoin. But I was willing to take the risk, because if I was wrong, I hate FOMOing into a position that I like, that I don't have, right? So like, let's say I have a bunch of ETH from 1,000. It's much easier for me to FOMO into at 1.6, kind of make the average a little bit worse than it is buying at 1.6 flat out. So I'm happy to have some ETH. It went up only since I bought it, right? I mean, it's just basically up only. It's up only less than Bitcoin, but I really don't give a shit. And the same can be said for Litecoin, even though, I mean, Litecoin outperformed Bitcoin by a tiny bit since I bought it, not necessarily in the last 3 weeks. In the last 3 weeks, it's basically exactly even. We had a big red candle. We have 2 green candles now. Like, that's not the worst look in the world. I generally like this chart a lot. But yeah, so Litecoin's been outperforming Bitcoin. It's up 150% from the bottom, 140, close enough. That's really, really strong. That's why I have it. And I think it's going to go higher. And I really like to use the chart as well. And I bought a bunch of Litecoin quite a while ago at 60. I managed to trade it around to make my position bigger and make my average better, which is quite nice. And now here we are right below 100. And this is going to be an interesting one, because I think the 100 mark is basically a pivot of sorts. It's a really interesting level, because if you remember how ETH went when it went from 84 that I talked about early in the stream to like above 100, it retested 100 again, right? It went straight from 84 to 160, and then it retested 100 and went to 370 before doing whatever. And I would like to see something similar for Litecoin. If it breaks the 100 barrier, just go for like 130, 140. That'd be quite nice. Like push up here, collapse back to 100, and then go for the real run. I'd be down for it. It has the narrative too, because we're heading into Litecoin halvening. Halvening, every single halvening or halving has me confused. I always kind of mix them up, but it's a good look, right? And it's going parabolic as we speak. You can see that the ascent, so to speak, has been steepening. It's been struggling to hold up with Bitcoin when Bitcoin was going hard, but that's unsurprising. That's what every altcoin has been doing. And I'm basically holding, even though I expected this. Like I could have just held Bitcoin, sold my Litecoin because I made quite a bunch on the way up. But I didn't want to not have a position, right? Because if this just broke out, I would have been sitting coping on the sidelines, because I hate buying breakouts. I like buying the dumps. So I just know my strengths, and my strengths are buying shit when it's very cheap, and then holding on to it, and selling stuff when it's very expensive. My strengths are not buying this breakout necessarily, right? It's hard for me to do. That's why I try to trade differently. So yeah, that's Litecoin, right? It's up quite a bit. I'm expecting it to go higher. I want to see how it reacts around 100. I want to see it break 100 with force and then go hard. But we'll see. Anyway, I mean, it's already a great trade. I've seen a bunch of people be like, oh, it's like the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's been outperformed by Bitcoin. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, dude, since I bought it, it literally, I mean, I bought it here on the left side at 60. It's up 62%. I mean, the fuck? Like, why are you guys complaining? I don't understand. Like, this is just straight up, like, a really nice trend that gave you one pullback that you could have bought, and then it's been up only since. And we talked about it from the get-go. So it's been a nice kind of journey, and I'm hoping that we can get a little bit like something of this sort, where we go just ballistic. But doesn't even have to. It's already a great trade at this point. So yeah. Don, do you think we'll have some kind of retrace in the near future? I have no idea. Possible, but I'm not expecting it. But it's very possible, which makes it really hard to trade if you're not already in a position. Because do you want to buy and then have a retrace that nukes your ass by 10%? I mean, probably not. Do you want to not buy and sit there while it goes up another 50%? Probably not either. It's a tough situation. So basically, like, you're listening to someone that's just cheerleading his own position, and it's the most annoying shit on the planet, I know. I wish I could give you better advice. I don't. Atom is my favorite coin. I feel so blessed. Atom is one of my favorite coins as well, and it's been doing wonderfully. It just looks really, really good. I've been chilling it for a while. It's one where don't necessarily have a position, which hurts to say, but I really like it. If I didn't have so much Litecoin, I would have had Atom, and I mean, I could see myself regretting this choice. I love the Atom chart. Reason being is everything else nuked, and Atom just held in a range during like a massive altcoin bear market, and this range high has been tested more than, I don't know. I don't want to say any mum jokes, but whatever. It's been tested too many times. If you go back there, it just looks too good. So that's against Bitcoin. While everything else been nuking massively, it set out a bull market, and then it set out an entire bear market, and it just makes me want to be in it. And the USD pair looks great as well. We've tested this resistance twice. Just looks like it wants to break it and go to 22. So yeah, I love it. I like the chart. I like the coin. Don't you a loser for not getting 500% from APT? It's not stuff that I trade. There's a reason why a lot of people, I mean, there's like a handful of people that can trade it properly, and the other people are just losing. And I don't really trade that kind of stuff. Like, for example, the Litecoin trade was obvious to me. Like, there was a very, very minuscule chance that this would go wrong. Whereas I could see a lot of the, like, people trade mask and like, oh, why didn't you take this? Like, it's up a shitload, whatever. The reason is, like, I could take this and I could take the APT trade, right? But with just 1% of the size, or at most 10% of the size that I would take the Litecoin trade, because I don't want to have a good chunk of my net worth in a coin like Mask or Aptos. Whereas I don't have a problem doing this with Litecoin. So it depends, right? I don't really, like, it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me like if you guys are bullish on something, you just buy it, you go all in, and you think it's gonna go up, and then you just buy like garbage like Mask or Aptos, or like the coins that basically could go either way. They could disappear or they could go up a bunch. And that's what you call trading. And if that's what trading is for you, I'd rather not be involved, because that seems like I'd just die of a heart attack by 35. So, yeah. Kadek says, I was joking. Yeah, I mean, you were, but a lot of people are not, which is interesting to me. I really don't, like, I've seen a lot of people like take this kind of stuff serious, and it's not the way to trade, in my opinion. 100% composure on the dumps. Yeah, I mean, we're trading, right? You don't want to. Basically, I made a tweet a while ago. I think at almost exactly the bottom or close enough, anyway, about buying so much that you're gonna be angry if it goes down or up. And as a trader or like as an investor or whatever, that's the kind of, like in crypto especially, that's the kind of thing that you have to think about, because if you're miserable at all points, if it goes up or down, that's just kind of the right place to be, because then you're gonna be composed. You're gonna be miserable and composed, but you're gonna be composed. And it's true, like you're not gonna make stupid decisions if you have, like, if you're gonna be angry either way. Like it's just how it goes. So I try to adhere to this as much as I can. Sometimes I see outsized opportunities and I take them, but most of the time I just try to not go too hard, not go too soft, just be sad no matter what happens. And it's working wonders. Like over a long period of time, that kind of strategy has been keeping me sane in this market, where other people have net worth swings of 90% every other, like up 10x, down 95%. I could not live with it. Just break my heart. But other people can. And I think there's more money to be made if you're insane like that. But I don't want to turn insane, and I don't want to be the insane person. I just rather take the market, like take the money that the market is giving me without too much stress. Yes, they're angry with up or down feeling. Helped me with my positioning at 16K. Nice, good to hear. Good to hear. But yeah, Litecoin, we talked about it. It's in a range. Low time frame doesn't really concern me too much. It's been outperforming Bitcoin the last couple of days. But if Bitcoin goes on a run again, that's probably going to get stuffed again. And then we're going to go for lower supports on the Bitcoin pair. If we go towards this low here, I might actually buy some more Litecoin. Just like transfer or kind of like trade my Bitcoin for Litecoin if it goes down to 0.0034. Not necessarily expecting that. I think we're in this range, and we're going to be in this range for a while. But we'll see. If it does do this, I'm going to be happy with buying more. But I honestly think I have enough Litecoin, so we'll see. I don't necessarily want to see it go down there. I'd just rather see it break out. But if it does, probably not gonna say no to that opportunity. So previously you aimed for 2.5k in ETH. Why have you changed your mind? It always depends on time frames, right? So this is 2.5k here on the weekly, and then you go on the monthly and it's 2.2. So depending on how long the monthly, like if we go to 2.2k this month and then we close there, I'm more than likely gonna sell. If we go to 2.2k in 2 weeks, I'm more than likely gonna wait for 2.5k to be tagged and sell there instead. So it just depends. Why are you doing your streams? Why are you giving so much tips to completely strangers? I mean, why not? I mean, I don't have anything else to do. It's the only thing resembling a job that I have, where I just sit at regular times, roughly regular times, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to work. Feels relatively normal instead of just like doing whatever the fuck I want to do. I don't know, it just keeps me sane, because it's odd not having any of that. And when I talk with people and I'm like, and they're like, oh, I worked so much this week, and I'm like, haven't really worked in ages. It's like, it's an odd feeling, and I'd rather be like, okay, have something stable in my life. It's even nicer when it's paid, because then I can actually say it's my job, not just lab as it being my job, which, I mean, it's not really my job in any case, but I can cheat myself, which makes me have a schedule, which I think is really, really important, because once you don't have anything else to do anymore, nothing to do that you have to do, life gets weird really fast. Like you get up at 12 You go to sleep at 5 a.m., that kind of stuff. And I've done it long enough to know that it's not healthy for me. So it's kind of good to have a schedule. So it's not only helping other people, it's also helping me. But I, for one, really enjoy cloud owl with Don. Yeah, it's also like a good way to farm some clout because, yeah, I've been right and it's great. And then when I'm gonna be wrong again, people are gonna shit down my throat, as it always happens. It's so funny. Like you have the hot streak of hot streaks, and then you're wrong once, and you get shit on. It's fun. I love it. Do you work out? I mean, I climb a lot, but I don't like properly work out. Do you travel often or have done? Yes, I used to be traveling. Like I used to travel all the time. Now that I have a pregnant girlfriend at home, I would do it less. So very much to the dismay of her, but cannot really travel, especially not to the places I want to travel with a pregnant girlfriend. Like Zika virus is a thing, malaria is not great, all that kind of stuff, not cool. So, yeah. Anyway, that's that. A bunch of people asked about XRP. XRP's been massively underperforming. Also, no surprise. Looks good on the USD pair, but that's all I can say about it. I have a bunch, but this one would have been better. Just me not taking it. I mean, I'm up, but I'm not up much. I'm up like overall like 25% or something on this position, while Bitcoin's up 50. It's not great, and it's only because I've been trading it. So yeah, there's not that much there, but it's technically bullish, right? We had range broke out to the upside. And it's not looking bad. I'm gonna rotate into this eventually, but I hope that I can rotate into it after Litecoin's run, after ETH has run, and then rotate into XRP. But I'm not so sure. I still have a bunch. It's my smallest position out of them all, but it's a position. Not going too great though. Not going poorly. It's up in USD terms. And I mean, being up like 20-25% on something for buying it 2 months ago, like in any other world than crypto, it would be like the greatest thing ever. But do I wish this position was Atom instead? Because I loved Atom as well. Of course I do, but it's just how it is. Anyway, a lot of personal questions which I would love to answer, but we're running kind of like I want to get to bed because this is already an hour later than I usually do it. So I'm not going to answer them, but keep them and ask me next time. I'm more than down to have like a personal half an hour or something where we can just talk about shit if you guys want to. Did you buy any sold at the lows? No. Cred DM'd me, or like, yeah, Cred DM'd me telling me there was great support. I looked at it, I loved it. I told him, hey, this looks great. I didn't buy it, it went up 3x. So we both agreed it looked great, and I was busy doing other things, and it's just how it is. So when will altcoins catch up? Oh yeah, I mean I mentioned it in passing, but let's talk about the title real fast, because otherwise I'm gonna have scammed you by clickbaiting, which I love to do. Obviously, it's the sole pleasure in my life, clickbaiting people into watching my videos that I do for free and that don't even have ads, so we don't even make money on the ads. But I mean, I don't think you make much money on that anyway. Never looked into it. Don't really care. Hate ads, so we never turned them on. Basically, when will altcoins catch up, right? When Bitcoin tops. Ta-da. I think like the ones that have been underperforming, right? They're going to catch up the moment, like basically what you want to be waiting for, Bitcoin to do its thing. You want to see it crash. That's going to take altcoins with it. You're going to see like 10-15% down on a lot of the altcoins, or even more. You want to buy that into the best support that you can find, be it like 24 or whatever, depending on where we go. But you don't want to be buying it on Bitcoin. You want to be buying it on altcoins, and you want to be looking for that complacency top. Basically, you have a top here, you crash, everyone thinks it's over, you bounce, and that's where you want to be selling your altcoins. So you have like a 1 to 4 week altcoin window where I think altcoins are gonna be crazy during this leg of the journey, where Bitcoin makes a lower high. That's kind of where you want to be buying the majority of altcoins. Obviously, there's gonna be some that are gonna be doing well regardless. Like I said, I mean, Atom's been looking great. Litecoin's been looking good. Solana's doing really well. It's at resistance now. Someone asked about my analysis on Solana. I think it's basically at resistance. That's why it's struggling on the USD pair. It's also at resistance on the Bitcoin pair. If it breaks both of those, it's gonna look great again. But basically, once Bitcoin tops, it's gonna nuke violently. By the intensity of that nuke, you're probably going to be able to see how long that top is going to be in place, as in if it's like a very, very strong nuke, it's probably going to stay for a while, like that top. It doesn't have to be the top, but it's probably going to be a top, and then you want to be buying altcoins on that dip. It's going to feel horrendous because you're going to be told by everyone that talks loudly that that was it. The echo bubble is over. You fell for it, and then that's the time where you have to buy. At least in my opinion, that's where I want to be trying to make that move heavier into altcoins. Like I said, there's gonna be a few that are most likely gonna outperform anyway, but the majority is probably gonna underperform until Bitcoin calms down a little bit. Best case scenario, honestly, Bitcoin goes up. This is very unlikely in my view, but Bitcoin goes up, goes sideways for 2, 3, 4 months, and at some point altcoins just start popping, because in this scenario you could actually see just Bitcoin going up further. I don't think it's necessarily too likely, but if we started consolidating here between 24 and 32k, maybe, right? So basically, if we started breaking in here and then went sideways here for 3 months, like at that point, I could see that be a reality. Right now, I don't think it's too likely. It's more likely that we're going to see the altcoins go off into a lower high on Bitcoin. Hope that helps. Hope that makes sense. I mean, I cannot predict the future. We can just try to make sense of it. So far, that's been working well, but it doesn't have to always work. I've been right before. I mean, I have sometimes, rarely, but I've been wrong before, and I will be wrong again, right? So don't bet everything on a duck on the internet. It's not the best choice. Just make your own informed decisions. Look at price action. Look at all of this stuff. Try to make sense of it yourself. The easier, like you're gonna have an easier time the further out you zoom, right? The monthly time frame seems pretty clear to me. Always has. Even when I was new, I was like, oh, this makes sense to me. When I was looking at the weekly, I was like, oh, this makes sense still. You look at the daily, and then you start like losing grasp of things, and then you go on the 5 minute, and it makes 0 sense. Like, what the fuck is this shit? So yeah, that's my tip. Don't know if it's gonna help anyone. But yeah, I mean, I'm guessing a lot of people will just jump into a 1000x trade right after the stream, and that's okay. But yeah, thanks for coming by. Really appreciate it. Hope you're having a great week, and we'll see each other, or I mean, we never see each other, but hear each other. I mean, I see you guys in the chat. It's lovely. Really appreciate it. But yeah, we'll see each other, talk to each other, whatever, on Friday/Wednesday again. Love you guys. Bye-bye.